Yes people, what's going on? Welcome back to Mad Mondays. I'm back. I know I've been away for a minute, but I'm coming back to you today with another grind rail video. I'm going to be doing a video more so for beginner riders who are wanting to learn the first few grinds. So we've got the Mad Gear grind rail here. I'm going to set that up. I'm in a local car park. I've got my scooter. Got my scooter, got my grind rail. I'm going to set it up here now. It's nice and sunny today, which is always a bonus. The easiest grind on a rail to start out with is probably a backside board slide. So there's backside and frontside tricks. Backside is basically where you're going up to the rail and you got your heels or your back toward the rail. And frontside is where you put your toes or the front of your body pointing towards the rail. With a backside board, probably the first tip I would give is getting comfortable with a feeble on a ledge, because it's kind of basically the same trick, but instead of locking in on your back end, you're just right in the middle of your deck. Top tips for a board slide: definitely having your feet a little bit further apart, have that front foot a little bit closer to the head tube, because that definitely makes it a lot easier for balance. You want to be right on top of the rail, and definitely at first just focus on getting the end bit so you can get the first balance point. Focus on getting a nice hop onto the rail. Instead of going right over the top at first, maybe even just like lean a little bit out so that you're not quite as scared. And if the problem is that you're kind of scared to get onto the rail, then definitely a top tip is start by just almost stalling it. Don't focus on doing a grind, just come at it straight on and just hop onto the rail like that so you stand still. That way it'll break past the mental barrier of just jumping onto the rail, because sometimes that's the hardest thing. So number 2, frontside board slide, which is a little bit more difficult, but the thing that makes it a little bit more difficult is because when you turn onto the rail and you're actually almost grinding backwards a little bit, so that's what makes it slightly more scary, but they feel really nice when you figure out how to do them. So I'd say the main thing with the front board is that you need to make sure that when you're jumping on, you're turning your scooter to the side so that you're quite sideways when you do it, because that's what makes it feel so nice, and that makes it a lot easier to keep your balance. And it's the same with the backside board slide as well. Actually, when you get on, you want to be jumping and sticking your back end out, keeping your shoulders straight and keeping your head facing forwards. Focus on just hitting the end of the rail first, and then gradually, as you get a little bit more comfortable, take it back a little bit more. I'd say one thing with a front board that's maybe a bit different to a back board is you might find that when you do it, you either keep landing sort of sideways or maybe even going to fakie by accident. Now, if you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're keeping your shoulders straight, because if you're not, that's what's going to make you spin. And remember to keep your feet nicely spaced apart. That's going to make the balance part a whole lot easier. So now you've learned backboards and you've learned front boards and you're thinking you're on your way to being pro. What's next? You know, how do you turn it up a notch? And the answer to that is lip slides. And it's kind of similar, but there is a little bit more of a danger element, because instead of just popping your front wheel over like this, you actually have to hop over the rail with your back wheel. So with a front lip, you want to come at the same side as you would do a front board. You want to hop nice and high, get your back wheel over the rail and tweak it out. You almost want to point your toes out so that you're nicely sat on the rail. The same sort of thing applies. Like at first, just get the end of the rail, get comfy with it, and then eventually work your way up. Maybe set yourself little marks. So say with this rail, for example, you've got the 4 posts or the 4 legs, whatever you want to call them. So at first it might be like, okay, I'm just gonna get the front one, then I'll work from the second one, then the third one, and then all the way from the fourth. And it's the same with the back lip. You come from the same side that you do a backboard. You want to hop nice and high, get your back wheel up and over, and point it backwards. Now, back lip is probably the hardest, but it's definitely the most satisfying when you land it. It feels so good. So just keep working at it. Make sure you got your feet spaced nicely apart, shoulders forward, head facing forward, looking where you're going. Get it on a nice waxed rail, and then eventually work your way up into down rails. And the best thing about all these tricks is they're really easy to add tricks into and out of. So like with a board, doing a heel whip or a whip out is like, it's super easy once you figure out the actual grind. Anytime you're going to go grind a rail, just check if it's waxed. You'd rather it a little bit too slippy than a bit too sticky. You don't want to learn that the hard way. The main thing is to just practice and have fun with it. You know, it's going to take a little bit of time for you to get comfortable with it until you can start sailing through board slides for days. And if you feel like you're running out of trick ideas, check out the 100 tricks in an hour that I did on a grind rail, and that's full of random different tricks. So you can maybe take some inspiration from that. So I hope this video has helped you in some way. If there's any other particular tricks that you want to learn, drop them in the comments, let us know. I'll see if I can do them. But other than that, hope you've enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe, and see you next time.